Are your seed trays just sitting there doing nothing? If your seeds keep rotting, disappearing, or just never coming up at all, it's typically one of these 5 mistakes, and we're going to cover them today and how to fix them. Spoiler alert, number 5 is the one that I think I'm battling right now. The first reason your seeds fail to germinate is, of course, soil temperature. Seeds have a predetermined wake up temperature. If the soil is too cold, they just sit there until they rot. If it's too hot, they'll dry out before they even get the chance to germinate. Warm season crops like tomatoes, peppers, and squash want their soil temperatures to be 70, 80 degrees Fahrenheit to germinate well. Cool season crops like lettuce, peas, spinach can handle much cooler temperatures, around 45 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. You can also go ahead and lump most of your brassicas into this category. And you can't go by air temperature alone. Go ahead and get a soil thermometer, stick it in the trays or the ground, and let's see what you're working with. Money saving tip, instead of buying a soil thermometer specifically for gardening, you can actually grab a cheap meat thermometer. I paid $3 for mine, and my gardening soil temp thermometer is actually $20. So if you're just starting out or wanting to save a little bit of money, meat thermometers are the way to go. And if you don't want to run a thermometer at all, go ahead, give your soil a touch. If it feels cold to the touch, it probably is too cold, so you should bring them inside or put them on a heat mat if you have them inside. If you fix the soil temps, you're probably going to find out that those bad seeds aren't so bad after all. Reason number 2, of course, is watering. Watering always seems to be such a fickle thing because in the beginning you overwater and everything rots, and then you underwater and everything ends up just dying and drying out. Until you get to the point where you actually just nail it, and then you're like, oh, I got this, and then boom, here comes dampening off again, or the seedlings are wilting. So go ahead and comment yes down below if you feel my pain, because I have this issue every year. I think I got it down, and then post. Plus, the lack of oxygen keeps the seed from germinating, and once it does germinate, it essentially suffocates the plants anyway. And of course, too little of watering, and if they do end up germinating, they just end up dying because they're lack of water. So what's the perfect level of watering, though? So essentially, what you want to do is get your soil to the point where it's like a wrung out sponge. When you squeeze it, it doesn't drip too much. That's supposed to be perfect. Super hard to reach, but there are ways to get there. You don't want it to be mud or dust. A happy medium in there, wrung out sponge. So if you see your soil and it looks shiny or soggy, then it probably is. If you see standing water, shiny or soggy looking soil, that is too wet, and that is a visual sign that you are overwatering. And if the surface is crusty and looks like it's starting to pull away from your seed cells, that is a sign that it is too dry. Bottom water, oh boy, that was disgusting. Bottom watering can help a lot. Super simple. What you do is lift the seeds out, put the water in there, put the seeds back in there, bada boom, give them 10-15 minutes. If all the water is gone, add a little bit more. If there's still water standing in the bottom, dump that off, let them sit. You can typically get away with only having to water once or twice a week throughout the germination period. And then the struggle gets real once they get so tall, because once they sprout. So you got to water a little, about the same frequency, but you'll have dampening off disease if you let it soak up too much. So the 10 to 15 minute rule, I always lean towards the 10. And then if I notice anything that shows the plants are getting to where they're wilting, then that's telling me that there's not enough water there. But I typically water once to twice a week, Sundays and Wednesdays, and things work out pretty good. So using some of these tips to dial in your watering can help you save a lot of failed seed trays. Reason number 3 is planting seed depth. A good rule of thumb for planting seed depth is 2 to 3 times this width of the seed. So small seed, top layer, a little bit of soil on top. Big seed, go down 2 to 3 times their width. The problems with going too deep is the fact that if you go too deep, the seed can actually run out of energy before it breaks surface, and then it dies. Barely covered or surface, though, they can actually be eaten, dry out, or wash away. So, of course, beans, peas, and squash go deep. Seeds like lettuce, herbs, and flowers will be surface stowed and then lightly dusted with soil. Or when in doubt, go ahead and check the seed packet. It'll tell you on the back what the depth of the planting is. And you don't have to be perfect, just get it relatively close to that general area. And if you really have to be OCD about it, they actually make little dibbler tools and stuff that actually show you the fractions that you want to go down in. And getting the depth right is one of the ways to quickly bring up your germination rate. Reason number 4, and I've been here multiple times, and let me know if you have too, the wrong seed starting mix. So in the beginning, I thought go to Dollar General, grab some cheap potting soil, throw my seeds in there, everything would be great. Well, that failed epically multiple times. Does it work sometimes? Yes. But if you want a good germination rate, you're going to have to do different because that barky wood litter stuff is terrible. Things you're going to want a light, fine, fluffy, well draining mix for good seed contact, good drainage. And so when it says light, you don't want any of these big chunks in there because that will actually mess with the contact of the seed and can make the seed fail in germination. So if you're using a heavy garden soil that has clay in it, it can actually compact, hold too much water, and will essentially suffocate your seed. And as I said before, you've bought this fancy store-bought soil mixes and your seed still failed. Well, another big one that I didn't know about in the beginning was the fact that the fertilizer in there. So when the seed actually sprouts, if there's fertilizer in there, it will actually burn the seedling's roots and make it where it will just toast. It just dies. And what I like to use the best, if we're being 100% across the board, that seems to have the best germination rate for me, is Fox Farm Happy Frog. I just take it and I use my sift. I run it through there, get all the big chunky parts out because it does have forest byproduct in it. Those chunks come out. Some of the perlite's a little too big as well, but all those chunks come out when you sift it, and it seems to work really well. These guys actually germinated in about 3 days, so that's pretty fantastic. And I'm not sponsored or anything. I just actually use that in all my seed starting, so that's why I'm suggesting it. But Fox Farm, if you want to sponsor me, let a guy know. Reason number 5, the grand holy grail of what I think is going on this year for me. So I saved the best for last because I've always blamed this first in the beginning. And as I've gained more knowledge, I've learned that this is probably not the issue because once you use the same packet 3 or 4 times, sometimes it germinates, sometimes it doesn't. That kind of puts it to me where I think that it's my fault. So essentially, when I started seed starting in general, I always thought it was just you take a seed, you put it in the dirt, you let it grow, bam, Gina, you harvest, everybody's happy. And after 5 years in the garden, I have realized that that is not how my grandparents did it. And my grandparents always had a great garden. So I decided I would look into it a little bit further. And now here we are. But when you get to the point where you've checked all the boxes from mentioned above, this is the one that may be causing you the most grief. That is the seed itself. So over time, seeds will break down and lose their germination rate. Like you said, with like a 95, and then you go, past as you get to 70, then 50, then 40, and so on and so forth. So onions, parsnips, and carrots are big time. If they are over a season old, so they were grown last year for seed, packaged, tried to be sold, didn't sell, or you didn't grow them, the following year, your germination is probably going to be 50% or less. Now, tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants, you can actually keep those for up to 5 years, but they do degrade. They don't degrade as much as onions, parsnips, or carrots. Smaller seeds degrade faster. That's where I'm at this year because I think my herbs are at their limit. But there is still hope because we're running a simple germination test to see if the seeds are toast or not. If you want to take 10 seeds, this is optional, but it seems to help with everything else that I test. Take them and put them in a room temperature degree water and let them soak for 24 hours. So when I say room temperature, I mean 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. Completely optional, but it seems to speed up germination for me, so that's why I do it. Then the next parts, of course, are not going to be optional. Take your seeds, put them on a damp paper towel, fold them over, slide them inside a paper bag. That would be great. A plastic bag, and give them about a week. Everything seems to germinate in these bags a lot faster, humidity, stuff like that. And make sure you check on it daily because if you want to save those seedlings, once they sprout and try to plant them, you're going to want to catch them as quickly as possible because sitting in that moist paper towel for too long is going to cause rot. And if only 1 or 2 of them germinate,
probably the seeds, not their setup. Now, great part about doing 10 is so that way you can actually just figure out the percentage. So 1 through 10, each of those is a percent. So each one that germinates is a percentage of how many germinate. So whenever you go to do your seed, knowing that 1 in every 7 or 1 in every 10 is going to fail. So you can plant more to accommodate for that. Make sure you label them if you're doing multiple different varieties of plants because you will mix them up. I am terrible about forgetting to label. I always have this grand scheme that I'm going to remember everything or I am going to label it later. No, label it then because you're going to forget and then you're going to forget what plant that you're messing with. And then everything you just set up is going to take a big old dump that you don't remember. So if your seeds keep on failing, go ahead and check those 5 things, make you a little checklist, go through everything, and I'm sure it's going to improve your seed germination over time. So make your checklist. Soil temp, moisture, think of a wrung out sponge. Is the depth right? Is my mix right? Then should I do a germination test? Changing or trying any of those 5 things can completely change the success rate for your germination. Which seeds give you the most trouble for germinating? Tomatoes, peppers, carrots, celery, onions, whatever. Something completely off the wall. Let us know in the comments and I'll do a deep dive into that crop to figure out how to do proper germination with it. Subscribe to Carter's Gardens for more garden tips on how to get better germination. Thanks for growing with me, and we will see you next Monday.